am I here with today?
My name is Asli.
Hello, Asli. So, I'm going to ask you some questions about relationships. And my first question is, how do you differentiate between a healthy and a non-healthy relationship? So, like, are there any, like, usual or unusual, like, habits to look for?
Yeah. I think that's a really important question. What I would say is important when you're trying to assess if a relationship is healthy or not is how you feel. When you see that person, do you feel happy? Do you feel stressed? Do you feel nervous? What kind of emotions are you experiencing when you think about that person? When you're making memories with that person, are you always on edge? Are you feeling like you're not yourself? Are you feeling your heart is racing when you're around them in a not good way? So those are just a couple of things to look for. But generally, just kind of checking in with how you feel when you're around that person, when you think about that person, and when you're making memories with that person.
Thank you. The second question I have is, how could someone who just got out of a long-term relationship recover from that? Like, are there resources they should find or, like, anything they should do?
I think that's also a really great question. I think it can be hard, right? Because every relationship can end differently, and sort of how people process the grief and the trauma of a bad relationship can be really unique. But I would say leaning into the people that are your friends, your family, the people that have been there supporting you that aren't a part of that relationship you're in, healthy forms of care like self care, rest, journaling, going for walks, doing things that make you happy, independent of that relationship. And of course, avoiding some of the more harmful ways of coping, like substance abuse or any other harmful behaviors.
That answer a lot, actually. So, how would you tell somebody who's looking to start a nice, healthy, fresh relationship, like a healthy, positive relationship? How would they do it?
Yeah, I would say kind of doing some self reflection work before you start dating again. And I'm saying this because I've done it before too, like taking an extended period of time where you're just focusing on yourself, because you have to figure out, what do I really want? What happened with that past relationship that I can kind of check in with myself and say, what can I avoid next time? What was I looking for that maybe I shouldn't look for this time? What are things that I didn't even think about last time I started dating that maybe this is important now. So kind of make your list of things that you care about in your next relationship, the things that you learned, the lessons that you carry with you from that relationship. Take that space, because that might be a year or so that you don't date. Some people like go quick in between relationships, and that's okay. And sometimes it's like really important to take that step back, because time and the healing experience is something that's so important between relationships. So I think that's an important part about what it'll look like stepping into a healthy relationship.
So, on that same topic, would it be harder or different for somebody who's just starting a first relationship or a real relationship?
Would it be harder if it's their first one, you mean? Yeah, I think there are definitely challenges your very first time dating, because you don't have anything that you're going based off of from your own experience. And I think that underscores the importance of connecting with your family, talking to your parents or a trusted older sibling or older peer. Tell me more about what your experience was when you started dating, and like hearing those stories, so that even if you don't have something to build off, and it could even be like TikTok videos, go on Instagram and look at relationship story time videos. That kind of stuff helps too. So like doing your research, even if you don't have that lived experience of having been in a relationship before, kind of helping yourself by setting yourself up with some information from the people around you that love you.
Thank you. And how, if somebody was arguing in a relationship, what would be an appropriate way to approach it?
um, Between each other, have they should approach it, or as an outsider? Together. Yeah, I think that I've heard this statement before about, sometimes when you have conflict in a relationship, it can be like you and me versus each other, and not you and me versus the problem. So if you kind of team up with your partner and say, like, we're not fighting each other, we have this thing that we're fighting about, that we're both fighting, and approaching like, we're going to team up and fight this thing together, and not go against each other. I think having that mindset, approaching hard conversations, I think that will help soften it and make it lighter, and kind of surround it in love. So always saying me and you versus the problem, and not me versus you.
Hey, that's a really good answer. I actually really like that one. Um, what advice would you give somebody in a one-sided relationship? Like, they want to talk to their partner about them not really being fully a part of the relationship. what advice would you give them to like approach it?
Yeah, I think I've been there. I'll say it from personal testimony that I've been there too, where it's like you're in this situation and it feels like you're the only one who's pouring. And I think that's an important one too about everybody's emotional like bandwidth and their ability to pour into the relationship is different. So you might have a big jar of love to give someone, but they might literally have like a teeny tiny little glass that they can only pour. And that's just like sometimes people have different trauma that they still have to work out. Some people just have different love styles. So I think check that first. Like, am I somebody who has a huge cup? I'm just a person with a huge cup, and my partner is somebody with a teeny tiny cup, and we're trying to make this work, and they're doing the best that they can to pour back, but like they only have a little bit they can pour in the first place. So I think that's the first thing to assess when you feel like a relationship is one-sided. And then after you've done that assessment, you're like, okay, well, we both have the same size jar. Then it can be like, okay, I need to approach my partner and say, hey, I feel like I'm the only person who's giving. So opening up that communication, even if it's scary, having that conversation and saying, hey, I'm feeling like I'm giving my all and you're not. Can you meet me? And maybe not thinking about it like 50 and 50, like a 50-50 love, but like we're both 100. I'm 100%, you're 100%. And approaching it like that might be a good first step.
What boundaries do you think is an appropriate amount for a person to set in a relationship?
I think a big one is still having your own sense of identity. I think it can be so easy, especially for young people when you first start dating, the teenage years, early 20s, your first relationship, you can get so lost in the relationship because it's your first time that someone like loves you back and like feeling those emotions. So it can be easy to like, who am I? Because your identity is being built up at the same time. Like you're 16 years old, 19 years old, it's your first time dating. You're still developing as your own person, and it's easy to intertwine that with the person that you start dating in that very first relationship. So I think that's something really important to keep in mind, like as a boundary, that I'm my own person, you're your own person. We're gonna keep growing as our own people because we're still so young. But we want to love each other and want to be with each other, but we want to keep growing. So I think that's boundary one, is that you're still your own independent person approaching the relationship.
That's a really good answer. And what would you say is the best way to help their partner when their partner is going through something serious?
Yeah, I think empathy and like kind of sitting in that dark place with someone. I think it's so easy to want to be a problem solver when you're dating someone. Like, I want to fix all your problems. But sometimes it's best to just say, I'm here with you, experiencing this problem with you. I want you to know you're not alone. I'm holding your hand as you're going through this horrific, dark space. I just want you to know that I'm here with you. And maybe that's a start, and asking them, amplifying their voice in that situation. What do you need from me? How can I best support you? How can I best help you? Centering those questions, I think, is super important in supporting your partner through those times.
Thank you. I really much actually like that answer. And that is all of the questions I have for you today. And it was really great talking with you today. And I guess I'll see you around.
Yeah, absolutely.